Welcome to Ask Shannon, a place for grace, where one mother's passion and determination for her child, diagnosed with a rare disease, was suddenly faced with saving the life of her special needs child. This became her only focus. When the life of her child was threatened, Shannon Kenitz's instincts led her away from conventional medicine. She desperately found an alternative, natural approach, and the outcome was astounding. Shannon shares her knowledge and Grace's story, now full of hope and happiness.
And now, Shannon Kenitz.
One of the many questions that I get asked on a daily basis is when I noticed a difference with Grace when she started hyperbarics. And the first thing I always tell families is I kind of have to give them a little history about where Grace was prior to hyperbaric therapy. When we first looked into doing hyperbaric therapy, Grace was only 3 years old. She was blind, she had seizures, was on a feeding tube, and basically lived the first 3 years of her life in the hospital. And it was one of those things where I didn't know if hyperbarics was going to work for Grace, but it was the only thing that I had not tried with her. And as a mom, I knew that I needed to try everything that I could so that I could be a good mom to my other daughter, Lily. And so our adventure with hyperbarics began. And we journeyed down to Florida. And I remember that day as if it was yesterday because I had to take her out of the hospital against medical advice. I was warned that if something happened to my daughter on the way down there, that I would be charged in that situation. And it was one of those things that I felt that if I didn't do, I knew that within 48 hours I would no longer have my daughter because they were going to be removing her feeding tube. And so my mom, my dad, Lily, Grace and I got in the car and we started driving to Florida. And we had 2 hospital stays that were pretty extensive before we could even get to Florida because Grace started to have issues on the way there. Once we got to Florida, we checked into Joe DiMaggio Children's Hospital, got her stable, and then our true miracle happened. We put Grace in, got her stable, took her out of the hospital, put her in the hyperbaric chamber, and within the first few weeks, Grace started to move her fingers, and for the first time in her life had a clasp, like she grabbed my finger. And I just remember thinking to myself, I never thought that that was going to be possible because before we left the hospital in Madison, they didn't think that Grace was going to live. And so the nurse, one of the pediatric nurses is a photographer, and she came to the hospital. They took all the tubes out of Grace and they put her in this little laundry basket and they put lace curtains up behind and they took pictures of her. And I have the best picture in my house of Grace holding this rattle. But what people don't know behind that picture is that we actually had to tape that rattle to Grace's hand because she didn't have that clasping. And so within that first few weeks when she grabbed onto my finger, it was like I knew that I was in the right place at the right time and that this therapy was something that was going to help my family. It was going to help my daughter. We continue to do hyperbarics, and I am so incredibly blessed and thankful to say that as of today, Grace is 15 years old. She is no longer in her wheelchair. She no longer has a feeding tube. She no longer has seizures. And more importantly, Grace is off all of her seizure medicines and is doing phenomenal in the seizure area in the sense that her EEGs have been completely normal. Grace plays, runs, swings, swims, and that's all because of hyperbaric oxygen therapy. And the biggest thing that I could tell parents that are seeking or you're looking into it is that you can't really go by other people's how many did you do, how long did it take, because each one of our kids is different. And I remember meeting this family that told me, you know, you hear all the time about 40 sessions, but I encourage people that if you don't see something in that 40 sessions, don't stop. Because I met this family that didn't see anything in that first 40 sessions. And she came up to me and said, I heard your story and I knew how many treatments Grace had done. I decided to continue to do it. And I think it was at treatment number like 56 or 57, her child said mama for the first time in her life. So had she stopped because that was the norm and that was what most people were doing, she maybe would have never ever heard those words out of her child. So I can tell you that you should see subtle changes in your children and your loved ones with hyperbarics. But if you don't stop. It doesn't mean that it's not going to work. Maybe it's just going to take a little bit longer. I was truly blessed that it took within that first few weeks, but remember, Grace had a lot of disabilities at that time, and you know, so we had a lot to gain. And so if you're looking for something in particular and so forth, keep going until you get it, because I truly, with all my heart, I know that hyperbarics will help so many people out there living with neurological conditions. It helps people that are healthy. So how can it not help people that are struggling in their life with special needs? And I swear that if you don't give up hope, and if you have hope, anything is possible for your family and for your loved ones. So just keep that in mind, keep the faith, and know that everybody is different. So when you're hearing those stories, don't say, well, I didn't get that and that. Don't stop. I'm telling you, don't stop. Maybe revisit it, talk to a physician. Maybe there's something else going on. Then revisit hyperbarics. But usually, most of the time, I'd have to say everybody gets some type of result from hyperbaric therapy. With Grace, I saw results within 2 weeks of doing hyperbaric therapy, and it was amazing. The results were amazing, what I was seeing with her holding on to things and her actually starting to be a child that became alive. And so definitely, try hyperbarics. It's safe, it's natural, it's an alternative to other drugs, and you will see benefits from the hyperbarics. Hyperbarics is a great alternative, especially to drugs. So many of us have our kids on drugs because we were in a conventional medicine setting, and I felt like doing hyperbarics was the perfect thing for Grace because it was safe. It was natural. It was an alternative to the drugs that I had her on, and in hopes that I could get her off of those drugs, which I was able to do. So if you're looking into hyperbarics, I definitely say it's a go. Go try it. You have nothing to lose by trying hyperbarics. And when I did hyperbarics, I had to travel thousands of miles away to do hyperbarics. And now there's so many alternatives that you can do that weren't available to me when I was doing this 13 years ago. And it's more affordable. You can have chambers in your home. So don't ever let anybody try to stop you from doing hyperbarics, or you thinking that it's too difficult to do, because it's not. And as far as one of the therapies to try, why would you not try something that's natural, that's safe, and that actually gets you results? Because I'm just, I'm a firm believer, because I see in Grace every single day what hyperbarics did. And everybody that listens to me talk, they know that I give credit to hyperbarics because that's where credit is due. Hyperbarics saved Grace's life, and I know it's changed thousands, if not millions, of people's lives across the world. Today, hyperbarics is across the country. It's around the world, and people are doing it every day. So definitely contact me at shannonandgrace.com if you're having a hard time finding a facility near you, because there should be no excuses why you're not trying hyperbarics. 13 years ago when I started with Grace, it was difficult to find a place to do hyperbarics, but now there are so many more options. It's more affordable. You can do rentals in your home. You can go to clinics. There's lots of options that you have that I didn't have available to me 13 years ago. So if you're having a difficulty figuring out how to afford hyperbarics or to find a place near you, definitely contact me at shannonandgrace.com, and I will direct you to a facility in your area or give you guidance on maybe how to get a chamber in your home if that's more convenient for you. But don't say that you can't find a place or you can't do hyperbarics, because you can do hyperbarics.
Please share this information with anyone who is facing special needs or health concerns at any age. Shannon's goal is to help as many people and parents as possible. If she can save you any heartache sharing the knowledge of what she has learned, that saved her daughter's life, and possibly save you tens to even hundreds of thousands of dollars in resources that she spent, her goal is accomplished. Please visit shannonandgrace.com for continued updates and free resources. Send her an email with your questions. Subscribe to her YouTube channel. She is here to help you and will do all she can to assist.